Hi everyone, my name is Dillon Gonzalez. I'm the editorial director of GeekVibesNation.com and also co-host of the Home Dance Film Festival podcast. And welcome to a brand new episode of No Streaming Required, your weekly deep dive into all the latest and greatest in the world of physical media. We have a very special episode for you this week. It is another installment of Exploring the Warner Archive. Yes, it is that time of the month where I got to talk about one of my absolute favorite labels, the Warner Archive. This is an episode where we talk about not only their newer offerings, but also shine a spotlight on some older titles that maybe got overlooked at the time, or I just think deserve another chance in the sun. So we have a lot of good stuff. We have stuff from the Looney Tunes, Hanna-Barbera, westerns, musicals, sitcoms. There's a little bit of something for everyone. So I'm going to dive just right in to one of our new releases, doing something from the Looney Tunes. This is their feature film, Looney Tunes, Daffy Duck's Quackbusters. So this is kind of a compilation film. I believe this was made in the 80s. And it's basically, it has a loose framework of Daffy Duck getting worming his way into inheriting a fortune from an eccentric billionaire. And then after he does inherit that fortune, trying to keep it through opening up a ghost busting agency to make sure that the ghost of the rich man does not take his fortunes away. That's kind of the loose framework of this. That's mainly a reason to kind of link all these kind of disparate shorts that had been released before or had been kind of manipulated and stuff to kind of fit this framework of this overall feature film. Most of these are kind of supernatural in tone. You do have like ghosts, zombies, vampires, that kind of stuff. So this is really a good one for the spooky season viewing. So if you want to get ready for be prepared for Halloween later this year, you can make sure to pick this one up. But it's actually good to watch it anytime because it's a Looney Tunes and they're fun. And who doesn't like a little bit of a spooky treat throughout the year? It's pretty amusing. It's not the absolute best output from the Looney Tunes, but for it not being like the golden age of Looney Tunes, it's still perfectly fun and has a lot of good laughs. And these are just characters you love. You have, like, of course, Daffy, but like all the other characters like Porky Pig, Bugs, Sylvester. Just a lot of good Looney Tunes fun, clean fun. It's great. And I'm open to any Looney Tunes content that wasn't previously in HD being released on Blu-ray. So I'm glad to get this from the Warner Archive. In terms of how it looks and stuff, I'm not exactly sure of the source of the master. This is not listed as like a new 2025 master. So I'm going to guess this was prepared in recent years for the Max catalog. And for those who kind of keep up with these Looney Tunes releases, a lot of these shorts that were created for the Max catalog, they can be a little bit of a mixed bag. In terms of this film in particular, there's not like an egregious amount of like DNR or anything like that. There's still a lot of that nice textural film grain included. You don't have like obliterated details or anything like that. There's nice, bright, bold colors. This looks pretty natural, all things considered. Maybe touches here and there where things have maybe been trying to like cleaned up a little bit more than I personally like. But overall, it's a very good presentation. Audio is fantastic, perfectly clear DTS 2.0. You do get a good number of additional shorts here. You get 7 additional shorts. So overall, in terms of this package, it's a good one from the Warner Archive. So if you're a Looney Tunes fan, definitely worth checking out. It's a good fun time. It's only like about 80 minutes long. But just in terms of a good feature outing, Looney Tunes, they do a nice job with this. And I'm always down for a good Looney Tunes feature. I'm looking forward to the upcoming one in a few weeks, the new one, but I can at least vouch for this one. This is a good release from the Warner Archive. Sticking in the land of animation for a couple titles, we're going over to Hanna-Barbera, and we are going to Frankenstein Jr. and The Impossibles, the complete series. So this is a series, lasted 18 episodes, and it does have these two distinct kind of segments. So Frankenstein Jr., about a boy genius, and who creates this Frankenstein monster fighting like superhero shenanigans and stuff. So it's kind of mixing that classic intellectual property of like Mary Shelley's Frankenstein, but really taking a twist on it and making him a superhero. And The Impossibles, this is where you have like a group of another group of superheroes where they are undercover as like beatnik musicians, so you get a little bit of like Beatles Monkees-esque flair, but whenever they're kind of called into action and get inherit their superhero persona, they have like their own kind of each distinct power, like the ability to turn into a liquid or multiply, stuff like that. It's never really explained. I don't think it really needs to. It's just like a kind of mindless cartoon where it's just fun watching bad guys get beat up in creative ways and all that stuff. It's not the absolute best Hanna-Barbera property, but in terms of kind of their lower profile stuff, this was actually a nice discovery. I had fun. I'm a big fan of animation, so anything that I can get my hands on, I'm up for it. And yeah, so it's not one that I would actually suggest binge watching like all 18 episodes at once. I think this is one that's more conducive to spreading this over like a matter of like weeks or months, sprinkling a couple episodes here and there so you don't get burnt out. But overall, this is a really good release. Unlike the previous release, I can vouch for the masters of this one. These are from new 4K restorations of the original camera negative. So whenever that Warner Archive handles everything themselves, you can usually count on near perfection, and this is a really good release from them. Bright, bold colors, all kind of crisp lines, filmic, everything you want out of classic animation. This pretty much takes care of it. I've never seen this before, so if there's any kind of like small discrepancies or anything, I'm not aware of them, but everything that I've seen, it looks completely normal, and everything I've watched from the series looks great. So this is 2 disc, 18 episodes. You get a 6-minute archival featurette included on this one. And so overall, looks good, sounds great, and you have the archival special feature carried over. So if you are a Hanna-Barbera fan, and even like their very random titles like this, I think this is worth checking out for sure. And I'm hoping that the Warner Archive has a really great year for animation in 2025. By all accounts, they are kicking the year off with a bang, so I'm excited to see what they have in store from Hanna-Barbera and other animated properties. But sticking with Hanna-Barbera, this was one that was originally supposed to come out in November, but it got delayed to this past couple weeks. This is Wait Till Your Father Gets Home, the complete series. So this is one that I had never heard of, but it's actually quite of a different experience from your typical Hanna-Barbera show. It's a lot more adult than a lot of their content. This is basically watching like a classic sitcom from the 70s. This is modeled after All in the Family, and that's very, very apparent from the beginning. So this touches kind of like topics that definitely would not be approached in the same way in these days. Mostly because like our character has like a best friend that's very like sexist and says like very culturally inappropriate things and stuff. So like if you're familiar with kind of the eyebrow raising nature of All in the Family, where you're dealing with kind of touchy, sensitive subject, but in a comedic way, where it's always kind of making people who are the bigots or the racist or anything like that the butt of the joke. It's very much in that vein, where there are kind of very sensitive issues touched upon, and this being from this era, there are issues that they talk about that are not completely PC by today's standards. I think it is a very interesting lens to look at kind of this material through an animated series back at this time, where Hanna-Barbera was wanting to make a series that would like show that animation is not just for kids, and it could be like a medium for adults to like experience in prime time. While it did not last, it did last like forever. It lasted 2 seasons. You do get both of these seasons on Blu-ray. They began releasing, the Warner Archive began releasing this on DVD many years back. They never got around to season 2, so this is actually the first time that season 2 is being released on physical media. And you do get all 48 episodes over 6 discs. These are also from 4K restorations of the original camera negative. In terms of how it looks, fantastic. Just like Frankenstein Jr. and The Impossibles. Perfectly crisp line details, filmic, bold colors. All of it looks fantastic. The audio sounds great as well. DTS 2.0 audio. And I, of course, did not watch all 48 episodes, but from everything I've seen, it looks really good. I sampled probably about 15 episodes over both seasons. Will say that there are some key episodes of the second season where the elements are not completely up to snuff, and those like 6 or so episodes in the second season are not as impressive as the other episodes. So if you do see a quality dip, from everything I've heard from the Warner Archive, this was really just an episode, an instance of these were the best elements available and how the elements played out. So it was either just not releasing them or just like releasing them in the state, which does still look good, but not as good as the rest of this series. So I just want to keep those expectations in check. I do also want to note that there are some supplemental features that are listed on the back that are not included on the disc. I've heard rumblings that there will be a replacement program. I have not heard that directly from the label, but I just want to keep you aware of that if you are, I'm not sure if the supplements were on the previous DVDs. So if you have those, just hold on to those. If you're a fan of this, being a completionist with supplements, hold on to those if it's on the previous disc, and maybe wait for a potential replacement program. But otherwise, in terms of just these episodes and how they look and everything, really impressive, great stuff from the Warner Archive. Wait till your father gets home, the complete series. Very interesting series, worth checking out from the Warner Archive. Going out of the land of animation, I don't think I have any more of those for the rest of the episode, but we are going to another new release, and it's a very interesting one for this time in our history. This is Gabriel over the White House. So there's a lot of stuff going on politically right now, and with this being a pre-code movie from the 30s, it's interesting to see like how things have changed and how things have not changed. This stars Walter Houston as a man who is elected to the presidency. He is kind of like a duplicitous snake. He is really up for doing bad all in the White House until he gets into a car crash, kind of changes his personality. He becomes like a crusader, like a benevolent dictator pretty much, and really just starts upsetting a lot of people who are corrupt in Washington, that they are not able to control him anymore, and they really start trying to take him down. This film, it brings up a lot of good points about like corruption in the government and everything, but it also, within its progressive notions, it also has a lot of things that from a modern perspective are not very progressive, and just kind of some of the ideas. It's a mixed bag in terms of ideology and how it's eventually kind of executed. But overall, in terms of being a movie, I think it's very interesting. Some really good performances. And this is one of those pictures that would have probably went more under the radar unless Warner Archive had rescued it like they did here. But it is definitely one worth checking out if you like kind of like interesting political angles in movies. Definitely worth checking out. So this one comes from a 4K restoration of the best preservation elements. If you would have told me this was original camera negative, I probably would have believed you. It looks that good. Everything looks pretty consistently clear. Maybe small touches of softness in a few shots, but overall it looks very good. And this is an early 30s film, so there are small bits of like kind of age-related limitations to the sound, but overall everything sounds pretty good and clear. You're not really missing any important dialogue or anything, not much in the way of like sibilants or crackles or anything like that. So overall, a very good presentation. Maybe just minor bits where you can notice like maybe some limitations on the audio visual side. But overall, very good release. You do get a couple of special features in the form of 3 restored cartoons. So from that era and everything, so you have characters like Bosco and Buddy in some of these shorts, and like black and white shorts. And so if you're a fan of those characters, be aware of that. So Gabriel Over the White House on Blu-ray looks very good. Our final new title is a Tom Selleck television movie, and that is Last Stand at Saber River. This was a TNT original movie in which Tom Selleck plays a Confederate soldier. I want to mention, this is not the original case this came in, so don't be concerned about this eco case. My case, whenever it arrived, was kind of damaged, so I just got a spare case and put this in. So just want to make that very clear. But Tom Selleck plays a Confederate soldier who returns home to kind of like the Arizona territory to get his life in order. And as he tries to do so, he comes into conflict with some Union soldiers. And there's also, as the war is starting to wind down, there's another figure who is trying to kind of stir the pot so that the war actually doesn't stop, because he's not ready for this war to be over, and because he's going to lose. And it's just a really interesting tale of like this Civil War conflict, and like trying to gain back some sense of normalcy after a war, and all kind of the things that are kind of trailing you in order to kind of hold you back from moving your life forward. We are following a Confederate character, so if you do have a problem with that, I would just say it's a movie, and it's not really depicted in a way that where the character is like overly problematic or anything. So overall, it's a good movie, especially for a television movie. This is based on an Elmore Leonard source material. I've never read that source material, but it does have a sense of style that I do really appreciate. But I do want to mention that as good as like narratively, I found that like the narrative is engaging. The filmmaking is a little bit sloppy. I did notice on at least one occasion where like a person gets shot, they are laying on the ground, and before the film can completely like transition to the next scene, you'll see the man start rising up off the ground, and I'm just like, you easily could have caught this in the editing room. What is going on? Other than that, it's decent television movie fun if you keep that level of expectation of quality. I think you'll be pleased, especially if you're a fan of Tom Selleck. It's not the best Western ever, but in terms of like a 90s Western, it's perfectly good. You do get a young pre-Sixth Sense Haley Joel Osment in here, along with some other notable character actors from that time. I specifically wanted to talk about the David Carradine, Keith Carradine, and Susie Amos from like Titanic and other movies from this era. Definitely worth checking out if you're a fan of any of these people. And now is the time where I start to spotlight some of their older catalog titles from the Warner Archive. I'm going to stay on my Western grind for a little bit and start with Great Day in the Morning. So this is actually, we just talked about the end of the Civil War. This is taking place right before the beginning of the Civil War. And you have a character who is going out into the Western territory, kind of, he's on a mission. You don't know so at the beginning, but it basically evolves into him trying to claim some gold that is being held, and it ends up winning like a poker establishment and a card game, and he has some women kind of in his orbit that kind of wondering who he's gonna end up with, and the person he lost or won the card game over trying to get back at him. All kinds of Western drama stuff going on in here. Overall, if you like kind of that character-driven Western. It's not overly action-oriented, but if you like kind of like scheming and backstabbing, all that kind of stuff, Great Day in the Morning, I think will scratch that itch. You have like Virginia Mayo, Robert Stack, Ruth Roman, Raymond Burr is like our main antagonist. Really like beefy dude, definitely very intimidating. So overall, I had never like really had this on my radar prior to a couple weeks ago. Whenever I was like trying to search out more of the collection and trying to like really more in a Western mood lately, and this was definitely one that stood out to me, and I did like it. So this was released back in 2019. I believe it was a 2K scan of the inner positive. I was not able to confirm that, but it is a very good presentation. Looks very nice. Bold colors, no lingering damage. This was just a really nice transfer like you would expect from the Warner Archive. DTS 2.0 audio, and you do get, this is directed by Jacques Tourneur, and you do get 4 of his shorts included in this, so that's a cool addition. So overall, Western fans, Great Day in the Morning, worth checking out. And now from John Sturges, we have The Law and Jake Wade. So we have Robert Taylor and Richard Widmark. Here we have Robert Taylor playing a man who he used to be a ruffian, used to be a ne'er-do-well, and he cannot outrun his kind of shady past as he's trying to like take over the town as a new sheriff. His old crew figure out where he is, kidnap him to lead them to a loot that was hidden in the desert, and kind of like loops in his new woman into the whole scenario as well, who does not know about his shady past. So it's about like a man trying to change into a good person, but the people from his past dragging him back into that lifestyle, and like whether or not he can ever get away from them, get back to where he wants to be, how that all kind of eventually resolves. Very good movie. One of the better movies I like, older movies that I'm talking about on this episode. Robert Taylor is great. Richard Widmark is a spectacular bastard in like a antagonistic role. John Sturges does a really nice job directing. Overall, really fun film. Enjoyed it quite a bit. This was released in 2017. 2K scan of the inner positive. Looks very nice. No damage, anything like that. Been cleaned up very well. It's very bright, bold colors. I'm going to say this a lot about a lot of these titles. These Warner Archive, they just do a good job. So no real complaints on this one. DTS 2.0 audio and a trailer is all you get in terms of special features. But the movie is so good. Definitely would like to recommend The Law and Jake Wade. But that is not the last we will hear of Robert Taylor, because we have him in our next film in a different role. Robert Taylor in The Last Hunt, along with Stuart Granger, Deborah Paget, Russ Tamblyn. So in this one, Robert Taylor, instead of playing the good guy, plays a magnificent bastard in this one. So he kind of switches roles. Stuart Granger is a good guy. This is about a crew who go on government-sanctioned buffalo hunts to kind of keep the population of the buffalo under control. Along this journey, they get into a scrape with some Native American characters that ends in violence. And it just really reveals to our Stuart Granger character how much of an evil presence Robert Taylor's character is. And it really just leads to this ultimate conflict and how it kind of resolves, especially as Stuart Granger becomes involved with this Native American woman who is like one of the only survivors of this violent act. This could be a little bit hard to watch for certain people because this was filmed during on a real life buffalo hunt that was taking place on the government's orders. So you will see some like depicted animal violence and stuff that was not inflicted because of this movie, but it was captured as a part of this movie. Like a natural occurrence was captured as a part of this filmmaking that really makes it feel authentic, But people who don't want to see any form of animal violence will probably want to stay away from this one because it is all about buffalo hunts. Are simulated acts of violence as well, but there is real life footage of buffalo hunts in this. So I did have mixed feelings about that, but otherwise it is a very intriguing movie. The ending of this is hilarious. I will not spoil it, but I was laughing my ass off. But in a good way, in like a satisfied way, I would say. Overall, pretty decent movie. This was one that was released in 2018. Once again, a title that I'm not exactly sure the source of the master. I'm going to guess it was a 2K scan of the Interpositive. Looks fantastic. Very, very good. So this has 2 MGM promos that run about like 5 to 8 minutes long. Like a classic promo that it's really interesting to see how they used to market older movies. And you have a trailer as well. So Last Hunt, worth checking out. My final Western, I like several different types of Westerns in this. We're going over to a Sam Peckinpah Western, and we have The Ballad of Cable Hogue. Jumping forward about a decade after our last movie, we have the great Jason Robards as the titular Cable Hogue. And he plays a character who, at the very, very beginning of the movie, you see him kind of get double-crossed by people he thought of as friends. Kind of leaves them in the desert to die with no water or anything like that. Along his way, right before he can die, he finds an oasis in the middle of the desert that no one believed was there. So he pretty much claims this land around this oasis. He starts like creating a life for himself as like a part owner of this oasis, and really brings in like people like a local prostitute played by Stella Stevens, who he has an interesting dynamic with. But all the time, he's really just laying in wait for his friends that double-crossed him to eventually cross his paths again. So it's like a man kind of becoming respectable, domesticated, and everything, but always having this like thing holding him back, which is this wanting of revenge, and how that kind of manifests within him and kind of evolves. I really, really love this movie. It's probably my favorite one I'm talking about. It's definitely one of my favorite Sam Peckinpah movies. It's not quite as grimy and violent as some of his other movies. But as in terms of like character work, I really like this. Jason Robards does a fantastic job in this. Just a very satisfying Western that I liked quite a bit. This was one that was released back in 2017, 2K scan of the Interpositive. And I do want to know, like, this is a title that I have spoken with my people at the Warner Archive, because I know a lot of Sam Peckinpah movies have been given like 4K upgrades from like the Criterion Collection or overseas and everything. So I had to ask them. I was like, is this one that's going to be getting a 4K upgrade anytime soon? They said no, and I believe them. Just so if you're worried about that, if that's like keeping you from picking up this excellent Blu-ray, I would say go ahead and invest in this, because I don't think that a 4K is going to be manifesting anytime in the next few years, and this is one that I think you're going to want to own. This does come, like I said, from 2K scan the Interpositive. Looks fantastic. Very beautiful Blu-ray that they've done a really nice job on. DTS 2.0 audio sounds really good. You get a commentary track, a pretty substantial featurette that runs about 20-something minutes, and a trailer. So good selection of special features. So Peckinpah fans, I think you would probably already own this, but if not, or if you're not a Peckinpah fan but are intrigued, definitely check this out. Definitely a really, really good Western. Okay, my next film I think is going to be very divisive. I've read all kinds of things about this movie, and even I'm a little bit mixed on it, and this is Doc Savage, The Man of Bronze. This is a film, it is wild. It's based on some classic like pulp novels about a man who's like an explorer. He seemingly has supernatural powers when it benefits him. He's just a jack of all trades and just a very interesting person, kind of like almost like an Indiana Jones, but like super heroic type character. And this is a story, this particular Man of Bronze installment, which there was never a sequel or anything like that, involves him going home to find out that his father is dead, and kind of gets into kind of this conspiracy territory of like what happened and how his father ended up dead and all the places it takes him. And he has a very colorful team of characters that accompany him. And this is really campy in like a way I found very amusing, but it also sometimes played very earnestly. So I'm not sure if I was always supposed to be laughing, but I found it a pretty hilarious movie, very absurd, and just a very interesting tale. I would not say it's particularly like good, but I enjoyed it because sometimes I like trash. So if you're kind of like in that mode of where you're not really wanting, like needing to watch something genuinely artistically excellent, but you're wanting something that's pretty fun, I think that this Doc Savage hits that spot. But I can completely understand if you watch it and you hate it. So this is not one I give like my fullest recommendation, but I did like it, so I do give it a light recommendation. This was one from a little bit earlier, back in 2016. This was from a 2K scan of the Inner Positive. Looks great, sounds great, no complaints. And this has a trailer in terms of special features, so not loaded with special features, but in terms of like this film that pretty much no one knows about and no one was really clamoring for, if you were one of the people who were clamoring for it, this looks perfectly good. It's perfectly serviceable, and I think you'll be very, very pleased. I wanted something even lighter. Recently, I was craving something fun and jaunty, and so I was checking out the Gumball Rally. So this is a classic racing movie where the leader of this group of friends can just call in, say Gumball, and boom, they're off to the races. This is a group of people who are racing across the country to get to just win this crazy race where there are no rules. This is very similar in like with like Cannonball Run and stuff like that. Kind of based on the same concept. But I think the differences between those two I can note is like Gumball Rally, I think, is a better made movie in terms of like stunts and all that stuff. Where it suffers compared to Cannonball Run is like there are no major stars in this. The biggest stars I would say would be Raul Julia, who people may know best as like Gomez Addams from the 90s Addams Family movies. You also have Gary Busey, who you probably know best from just being a lunatic, but you gotta love Gary Busey and all of his eccentricities. But everyone else, I think, was mostly hired on because they are good performers who could handle cars. And I think that's mainly there's a bit more of a sense of authenticity. Like whenever these characters are driving cars, you believe that they're driving, but they are also not particularly like dynamic personalities. So some of these people do get a little bit like you can mistake like blending of like personalities a little bit one into the other. It is amusing. It's fun enough. I enjoyed it, but compared to other movies, like I said, Cannonball Run, it doesn't live up to its full potential in my opinion, but I still think it is worth a watch. This is one that came out back in 2017. 2K scanning of the Inner Positive. That's sounding familiar. They did a lot of those in the earlier days. Looks great. Very bold colors. They're like this. The cars look very nice and colorful. Sounds great. No complaints. And like I said, you get the trailer. So overall, if you like comedy racing films, Gumball Rally, once again, we'll scratch that itch. Heading over to something a little bit more stately, going even further back in their release history, where you're getting Far from the Madding Crowd with Julie Christie. This is based on a classic novel about a woman who is a little bit different in the village. She's a little bit more independent, all that good stuff, and people don't understand her. But then mainly it's about her, like a trio of different suitors who are trying to get with her, and how this kind of goes into like land ownership and like regrets and like fulfillment and like emotional satisfaction, physical satisfaction, all this kind of stuff kind of like is woven into this pretty epic movie. It's like right under 3 hours. It's like 2 hours and 50 minutes long. And despite its length, I was never bored. I was always on board, and it really kept my attention throughout. I know a lot of times, like period pieces like this can be a little stuffy and everything. This really has more of a youthful energy, despite being made, I believe, in the 70s. It just it feels very timeless in a way that I think is very invigorating. Julie Christie is fantastic. You also get people like Terrence Stamp, Peter Finch, Alan Bates. So overall, I do recommend this one. This was one of their earlier releases way back in 2015, 10 years ago. Still holds up very well. This was what actually from an HD master that was probably created for the DVD release, I believe was in 2009. But this master holds up very well. Lots of intricate details in the countryside, bold colors, everything like that. DTS 5.1 sound, which sounds great. You do get a 10-minute featurette and a trailer. So if you like epic period pieces, Far from the Madding Crowd, definitely worth a look. Golden Age fans will want to check out Thank Your Lucky Stars. This is one where the actual plot of the movie is not of too much consequence. You get like a kind of a lot of like, let's put on a show energy. You have like struggling artists, all that kind of stuff. The main reason to watch Thank Your Lucky Stars is because it does have a lot of stars. This is kind of around the time of like the Hollywood Canteen, which was Betty Davis's baby. And it's kind of like a dramatization, a little bit of that. But just it's a reason for a bunch of stars to come together on screen and just give like a little burst of entertainment and stuff. So you have people like, I'll read people off, like Humphrey Bogart, Betty Davis, Olivia de Havilland, Errol Flynn, John Garfield, Joan Leslie, Ida Lupino, Ann Sheridan, Dinah Shore, Alexis Smith. And then you have Eddie Cantor in more than, he's like more of a main role. And he plays like multiple versions of like different characters that look like him. So if you're going to this for the plot, it's not a really good movie. But if you're going for the stars and like entertainment value and hearing some of these people sing songs who don't normally like sing on screen and just like these bursts of like high wattage star power, I think you will like Thank You Lucky Stars. This one was released back in 2015 as well. HD master, unknown source, but it looks really good. Black and white, strong contrast, no major damage. Overall, very, very good release. You do get some cartoons, some short films, some newsreels, and more. So, pretty good selection of special features for Thank Your Lucky Stars. Staying in kind of like a musical territory for a couple titles, we are going ahead several decades to Ken Russell's The Boyfriend, starring Twiggy. This is based on a classic stage play that this main role was originated by Julie Andrews, but Twiggy took over for the screen version, about a girl who's just kind of a lowly stagehand who, after a star gets injured while like performing this play, she kind of takes over this role and it really kind of shakes up her world. Most of the action does take place like in this theater or on this stage. Ken Russell does some very interesting things with like what the reality is on stage and how it sometimes turns into a dream reality, and how compared to kind of the offstage antics and kind of like everything that is going on. And there's people falling in love, people falling out of love, just like double dealing of like business deals, all kinds of stuff. Drama is going on throughout this theater and like this program that is becoming a bigger hit with this new star, and like how the old star is not very happy about that. Ken Russell really directs us with a sense of flair. He has a real respect for old school musical numbers that are very eclectic, vibrant. It's really inventive that I really, really appreciated. In terms of the performances, they're pretty good. Nothing like fantastic, but overall they're all perfectly solid and serviceable. This was just a really fun time. This was one that was released back in 2017. 2K scan of the inner positive. Looks great. No complaints. Natural film grain. Nice bold colors. All that good stuff. DTS 5.1 sound. Sounds really good. You do get a short featurette and a trailer. So if you... I've usually just heard of Ken Russell in relation to like The Devils, and I've seen like The Lair of the White Worm. So this was a little bit unexpected for me, but I did quite enjoy it. So definitely up for checking out more Ken Russell because he did a really nice job with this one. My last proper Warner Archive title, I do have a surprise in store, is another musical, Fred Astaire, Sid Charisse in Silk Stockings. This is a musical remake of Ninotchka, the classic comedy with Sid Charisse playing a Soviet envoy who travels out of the Soviet Union to meet up with some people from her country that she hears is becoming a little bit too Americanized whenever they're hanging out with Fred Astaire. But once she gets to them, she herself starts to become a little bit too Americanized and like a little bit breaking away from the chains of Mother Russia and the Soviet Union. It's fun, it's flighty. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Sid Charisse, the woman that you are, she is stunning. She is amazing. She does some really great dancing opposite Fred Astaire. I just, my heart just like really is with Sid Charisse now. I love her. Fred Astaire, this is one of kind of his later in life works, but he still moves with grace and everything. Everything is very good. So if you're a musical fan, Fred Astaire fan, hopefully a Sid Charisse fan, Silk Stockings is quite a bit of fun. A lot of good like poking fun at kind of like the Soviet Union and all that good stuff. So you gotta love that. So this was from 2016, 4K scan of the original camera negative. Looks fantastic, holds up very well. They've maintained this very well. Natural look, bold colors, everything's good. DTS 5.1 sound and a featurette and some short films. So overall, really good release of Silk Stockings. I was glad to catch up with this one. It just gave me a nice like boost of energy. Now, I don't normally deviate from this format, but I do have a couple of titles that I want to show off from the Warner family. And I think you'll especially give me leeway with this next title. It is a television series, and it is the Wayans Brothers, the complete series from Warner Brothers Discovery Home Entertainment. So I think you'll give me some leeway, especially because these seasons two, this is a 5-season show. Season 1 was released way back in the day, like 2005 or so. I owned that. And then seasons 2 through 5 was released on DVD way after the fact, and like starting in like 2017 from the Warner Archive on DVD. You do now have all of these together in one, not always most secure packaging, but one packaging from Warner Brothers now. And so if you did not want to collect these individually, some of the Warner Archive DVDs versions of these, the 2 through 4 or 2 through 5, were a little bit more expensive. So you could buy two of those later seasons for the price you can get this new complete series set. So for that reason alone, it is worth getting this show, which I have a soft spot for. This was one that was coming on right when I was growing up, and I like, God bless my mother, I kind of badgered her to see Scary Movie at a young age. And she eventually relented. I loved it. It has not caused any permanent damage. I'm fine. But I love the Wayans brothers, and I love their TV series as well. It's definitely a lot more tame than the Scary Movie films, but they're always been very, very funny. You got John Witherspoon here as well. This is a series that I'd never actually gotten to watch all of over the years. I catch a lot of stuff in syndication and everything, but it's a really funny show. These are the exact same disc as the original releases, but it's great, consistent show. It changes a little bit after the first season, after they started like getting longer seasons and they switched kind of like locations of their jobs and stuff, like where their like coffee stand was and what their occupations and stuff were, and like dropped some characters, added some characters. But this is a pretty consistent series. I like it quite a bit. So if you like the Wayans brothers and the Wayans brothers series, I think you will be glad to own this in a pretty inexpensive complete series set, all in one set. My only issue is the packaging in terms of like, there are a couple of stacked discs. This is, you get all 5 seasons, 101 episodes on 14 discs. So there are a couple of like sections on within that DVD, the inner work, where you have like a couple sections of stacked discs. Not all of them are stacked, but there are a few, and then some of them come off the hubs pretty easily. So do not be completely surprised if you open up your DVD set and like most of your discs are off their hubs. DVDs are pretty resilient, but it's still, I do not like this kind of packaging in general, but I do like being able to have everything in one collection, so I will kind of forgive that, but just be aware. So the Wayans brothers on DVD, I'm glad to have it finally. It took a long time from me having that first season to being able to hold this in my hand. It's been about 20 years, but I am glad to finally own everything on my shelf for this really good sitcom. And finally, this is from Warner Brothers, the main line as well, not the Warner Archive, but it is manufactured on demand, so it's like a cousin to the Warner Archive, and that is Clint Eastwood's latest film, Juror number 2 on Blu-ray. So this is a film that Warner Brothers like did very dirty by releasing it in like 50 theaters throughout the country, barely giving it a theatrical release, and like leaving it to like basically just languish and die. But fans will not let it die, because this is Clint Eastwood's latest film, potentially last film, hopefully not. Like, go off, King, just keep on creating as long as you can, because I still really like a lot of your work, but this is actually some of his best work that he's done in a while. Like I said, I do like a lot of his more recent work. I was a fan of Richard Jewell. Even The Mule, like, it was fine. But Juror number 2 is definitely his best work in quite a bit, and probably since Richard Jewell for me. And it's a great legal thriller. You have Nicholas Hoult as the titular juror number 2, who he's on a jury where maybe he's a little bit more connected to the case than he should be, and all that drama that comes from that. And so there's a lot of like morality play here, nice legal thriller stuff going on, just like figuring out what is going on, what is the truth, how this jury is going to rule on this case, everything that you want in a good legal thriller. This pretty much has really great performances. In addition to Nicholas Hoult, you got Toni Collette, J.K. Simmons, Kiefer Sutherland, lots of good people in here. So my gripe with this release, as if I have to have one, is that there at least should be a 4K option for a film of this size. Hopefully we'll get that in the future, but for now, at least they did release it on Blu-ray. At least Warner Brothers weren't completely crazy. But I wish this had a 4K release. But the Blu-ray looks very nice. It does have a Dolby Atmos track as well, so it sounds fantastic. So crisp video, great audio, no special features. But you do get to own it if you're a Clint Eastwood fan, Nicholas Hoult fan, anything like that. If you're just a fan of the film, you can own it on Blu-ray, and it looks and sounds very good. So make sure to check that out. And that is my show. We had a lot of great things to talk about. Let me know what you are most interested in adding to your shelf. I would appreciate you sharing this with anyone you think might enjoy it. Make sure to, just like I said, comment, subscribe to the channel. I do this every week. I enjoy it. I hope you enjoy it. I will be back again next week with another expansive slate of titles. But until next time, enjoy these movies.